believe. And deception is a powerful thing when you lose your rightful thinking. So we voted for the bling. But you trick us with campaign promises. We won't say a tease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain. But you now refrain, you now refrain. Yellow, yellow all the way is what everybody say. Cell phone ring, man answering. Yellow, yellow, no hello. Teeth get yellow, house get yellow, bus get yellow, man get yellow, even green get yellow, and so says 11-4. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay a tease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain. But you now refrain, you now refrain. Old school parables say you know what you have, but you don't know what you go get. So cherish what you have to diminish regret. But what on earth lasts forever? Not even things created by the great Jehovah. So the green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy, one song I sing, one bell I ring. If we didn't know, we'd never know yellow would have treated us so. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay a tease, that's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain. But you now refrain, you now refrain. They began with the blame game, giving NNP more fame. Past administration, the cause of frustration. Past administration, chief of corruption. Then to economic recession, we can't give you attention. Economic recession, the cause of poverty in the land. Economic recession, no employment for the ordinary man. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. This is not politics. Please don't forget.
And good night to each and every one of you. Once again, it is time for Talking Points. My name's Sheldon Scott. I'll be here with you up until the 10 o'clock hour. Now, 4 minutes after the hour of 8 on the Spice Island of Grenada, Carriacou, and the island of Petit Martinique.
Neither are you in to leave up to mine.
It is Talking Points.
I don't own.
Yeah, tell a neighbor, tell a friend. Remember to like and share the live.
No one knows me none, so everything is fine.
Drop your comments. Let me know that you're in. Just letting the numbers build up a bit before we get deeply into it tonight. And we have got a lot to speak about tonight. Yeah.
I am that I am. I am. I am that I am. I am. Serious business. There is a time for everything. And for everything there is a season. So man and man must reason. So I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple information I will use. No rocket science to get you confused. So relax your mind. Make sure everything is fine while I take you down a poetic line. Trick us with campaign promises. We won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain. But you now refrain. You now refrain. I remember you say Liberation Day, and I ask, you sure is that you wanna say? Cause you sounded so good to believe, and deception is a powerful thing.
Yeah, remember to like and share.
So we voted for the blame.
So we are live on Talking Points right now, and we should also be live on 89.5 CRFM. I have not checked to make sure that the live day is going over okay, but we should be live on CRFM 89.5. So all the listeners over there, a special good night to you. Keep in mind the phone numbers 4407377 and 347-329-3101.
When you trick us with camp,
we will be opening the phone lines early tonight.
That's the way it is.
In fact, watch, phone lines open. Yeah, we open the phone lines from now because we know that you all have got a lot to say. Yeah, today was budget day in Grenada. Yeah, the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 2023. Several measures announced by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Deacon Mitchell. They were announced today. And yeah, we're going to speak about one or two of them because, how the thing go. Yeah? So we're going to be having a conversation in relation to several of those measures, all right?
Campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in.
Yeah, so let me say a special good night to you, Lola B, Teresa Collymore, Olive McSween. I'm seeing you there, Sherms. I'm seeing you jumped in on the live over on YouTube. Let me say Unison, Matthew, Beavis, Kathleen, Joyce, Effort, Stanley, Cynthia, Gemma. A special good night to all of you. Seeing you over there on the live. Errol, did I call your name? Errol, good night to you. Baby Daddy, Christine, Devon. Good night to all of you out there on the YouTube page. So we're saying a special good night to you. And as I said earlier, the phone lines are open early tonight, 440-7377 and 347-329-3101.
Projects are stuck in a pipeline. But when asked, how is the country going? Oh, fine. We are looking into it. Never mind. Only project.
Amisha, special good night to you. Thank you so very much.
When will they start? Please answer that. Oh, soon. Maybe by the next full moon. Although things are turning at a very slow pace.
All right. Boy, I missed it out. Yeah.
Just a few hungry people in a place and a few disgruntled grim people with their vexed face. When you trick us with.
So remember, the phone lines are open. Let's try that again. Let's go to the phone line. Good night. Hello, good night. Hi, good night. Hi, good night.
What?
Yes, Miss Jacob.
Nobody don't tell me that number,
All right, yeah. Well, that's the number. That's always been the number. So you go right ahead.
Well, happy New Year to everybody.
Well, the new year hasn't arrived yet, so we could hold that one still.
Huh?
The new year hasn't arrived yet, so we could hold that one still. We pray for God's blessings, guidance, and direction so that we may see 2023.
And everything.
Yeah.
Sure, I will call you back later.
All right, my dear.
Okay, sweetheart.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Great.
Bye.
440-7377 and 347-329-3101. Yeah, let me hear your views in relation to budget.
Left him with Glenn alone. Maybe they cloned. And however, I foresee a pretensive unity that.
You know, what I can say off the cuff is this. It is glaringly apparent that many people have never, ever listened to a budget presentation. It's glaringly apparent that over the years, now I've been following budgets since probably the late 1990s, early 2000s. I may have missed one here or there, but I've been following the budget presentations, and it's glaringly apparent that there are quite a few people who are most vociferous. They are most talkative. They are most noisy all over social media and other platforms, but they, I can safely say, have never listened to a budget presentation before. Because I listened to some of the statements that they have been making today, and since the budget presentation, all 3 hours plus of the budget presentation. And it's quite obvious to me that they've never really listened to a budget before. This is their first time actually listening, and that's sad. It's their first time listening and paying attention to a budget, yeah?
With more pressure and hunger, and from the mouth of Grenada.
So I'm glad that they have joined the rest of us that have closely been following budgets over the past few years. So I'm glad that they are finally following the budget presentation and that they are also making their views known in relation to the budget, yeah?
February to November. Suck salt and drink now as water. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's
Nurses, how you feeling?
waited in vain, hoping you'll
Yeah, saying a special good night to the nurses.
you now refrain. By the way,
But I want to know if they kept their campaign promise, because here's what, to our good friends, the nurses, the much deserving nurses, and here's what, I am glad to see if you all get 500. In fact, I would have loved to see you all get the same as the ministers get, because, you know, they get a little 2,500, you know, additional 2,400 at least, 24,000, sorry, a year. So you all have gotten a 500. It is good. I am glad that our hard-working nurses have gotten that $500. It is not the promise that was made to you all. The promise was permanent employment, to take you all off of contracts and make you all permanent within the public service. So we are yet to see the upkeeping of that promise to you all. I was listening closely to hear if there was any allocation made towards that promise. Instead, I heard of either a 12 or 24 month, because it's kind of difficult paying attention for that period of time to everything that's said. So I think at least it's a 12-month payment of $500 honorarium per month. And I'm glad that you all have gotten it. As I said, I believe that you all should actually have gotten more, because if there was enough money to give every government minister an additional $24,000 a year, I think that there's enough money there to give each and every one of you at least the same thing. They hadn't even worked 3 months and they got $2,000 increase. So I see no problem with giving you all, if they find that not even working 3 months, that they were worthy of receiving $2,000 additional a month, $24,000 additional a year. And you all have been working within the system for an extended period of time. Some of you fully permanent, and others within the system, at least you all are on contract, so you're working within the system on contract. These individuals could have seen it fit. I'm just saying that I'm glad that you all have gotten that, but yet it still does not fulfill the campaign promise. What is being done is simply window dressing to keep the nurses and them off the back for now. It's like, well, forget the contract, we will get that later down. You get it 500 now. No. What was promised? Full contracts, eh? Nice. Just saying, yeah?
Refrain. I remember you say Liberation Day, and I ask, you sure?
But I was very interested because I listened carefully afterwards to hear that other categories of workers were receiving an honorarium or an increase as well. Grenada remains the most peaceful country within the Eastern Caribbean. In St. Lucia, they are now on murder number 66. Let me say that again. In St. Lucia, they are now on murder number 66. They've just killed an English gentleman who resided there for several years and shot a next one. There's been a situation in nearby St. Lucia, again, in an area called Babonneau, where 13 people were shot last night. So you could basically tell it's the Wild West going on over there right now. And while that is taking place, we have nice, peaceful Grenada. Why is Grenada nice and peaceful? It is due to the fact that we are naturally nice people, but also that the Royal Grenada Police Force has done and continues to do an excellent job. So while I am very glad that our nurses have gotten their 500, the parliamentarians have gotten 2,000. I hear nothing for the police officers. And I'm still waiting and hoping that probably there was some sort of omission on behalf of the men and women of the Royal Grenada Police Force, whether they're in Immigration Department, who during times like COVID had to face people coming into the country down at the airport, or who have to get up rain, sun, or shine, day or night, to go outside to apprehend criminals when they do something. Or even more prison officers who have the responsibility of keeping us safe by keeping the undesirables within Richmond Hill Prison. His Majesty's Prison. It's no longer Her Majesty's. His Majesty's Prison. I didn't hear a 200 extra for prison officers. I didn't hear a 150 extra for police officers. And I'm not saying this so that anybody could jealous anybody. I'm saying that in the same token that you can find $500 extra to give nurses, who I believe should really, if you find $2,000 to give yourself, you could have found $2,000 to give them, or at least $1,000, half of what you're getting at least, to give to them, that our police officers, all how much thousand of them, whether it's 2,000, 3,000 of them, and prison officers, deserved the same. That they also deserve recognition for the excellent job that they have been doing and continue to do to keep all of us safe here in Grenada. Our Royal Grenada Police Force has one of the highest detection rates and rates for solving crime anywhere in the Western Hemisphere, not just in the Eastern Caribbean, in the Western Hemisphere. You hear of many murders to our south in Trinidad and Tobago, and over half of those, they never find out who commits those murders. Here in Grenada, you barely have a case where there is a murder and they don't find out who has done it. You barely find out there's a case of a break-in or a robbery, and our hard-working police officers can't find out who that person is, whether it takes a few days, a few hours, a few weeks, or a few months. They always get their people. Yeah? So in the same vein that we honor our nurses, because there are many people within the police force looking to leave too. In the same way that the idea behind giving our nurses that 500, in the same way, because you know what some of them are going to go out there and say. They're going to say that I come here tonight vexed that our nurses get a $500. No, I'm not upset. I'm glad. They should have gotten more, because if you could give yourself $24,000 additional on a yearly basis after you didn't even work 3 months to prove you could do a job, you could have given more to them. Because if you could find the money to give yourself, you could have found the money to give to them. I'm saying that police officers, they are not receiving a single thing. What about our police officers? What about our Coast Guard officers? When someone is in trouble out there in the water, me ain't going there, I don't like boats, but our Coast Guard officers have to go out there. It could be whatever weather conditions, they have to leave base and go out there to rescue individuals, to search for individuals, to ensure the safety of individuals. And you're telling me, not even a $50 extra. Okay, not even a $50 extra for our Coast Guard officers, our fire officers. Yes, I've seen the budgetary allocation in relation to improvement of fire services. That is nothing new. That existed in the last budget. So it's not like you came in and realized that we needed fire trucks and we needed etc. and that you've just put that into the budget. As I said, there are many people who have not read a budget before. They've never listened to the estimates of revenue and expenditure. So to them, it's something new when they hear that fire trucks are coming. And that's why I made mention in a prior program of what is taking place up in St. David. When you look adjoining now, the St. David's police station, there is a proper fire facility built there by the Honorable Oliver Joseph, not Deacon Mitchell, but Oliver Joseph, ensured that there was a fire station attached now to the police station up there in St. David. Now the fire trucks for that are already ordered. So the money that you're seeing there include that fire tender that has to be purchased that was already budgeted for by the NNP before. So it includes that fire tender. So even though that fire tender now, you have a couple $1 million, fire tenders aren't cheap. You're speaking at least $1 million at least for a fire truck. A fire truck is not cheap. Usually you get them out of Turkey and so on. So a fire truck, a brand new fire truck is not cheap. So there was the budgetary allocation already there for the fire truck for St. David and one or two other fire trucks and bits and pieces of equipment like hoses and so on for the fire service. So when I see people jumping up, oh, finally, no, it was already there in the budget. I was listening as well to several other aspects of the budget that I wouldn't get into tonight, because I'll tell you this. Thursday at 9 a.m., class is in session at His Majesty's Parliament. Let me say that again. On Thursday at 9 a.m., class is in session at the House of Representatives. Those of you that are listening right now and can make it there to listen to the presentation by Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, former Prime Minister and leader of His Majesty's opposition, to hear his presentation on the budget, you need to be there. So if you can make it there, come out. If you can't, you need to listen. And when it goes live, make sure and share it and like it as much as possible so that others will also hear what is being said. Because there are people out there that don't want you to hear what the New National Party has to say in relation to this budget. Many of the things that you're hearing there are simple continuation of things that were started under the New National Party. Now, if you were to take a look at the 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 budgets, you would see that many of the projects that they're mentioning now are the phase 2 or the phase 3 or the phase 4 of projects that were started by the New National Party. But then you hear some people start to speak about them and saying things like, oh, this is a this is a new thing, and like it's something new, and finally, and all this sort of thing. But it's obvious you all never followed budgets before. And the budget documents are available online. So you don't have to take my word for it. You can go online, you can find those budget documents, and no, not just the budget speeches. What was presented today, all 80-something pages of it, was the budget statement, the budget speech, which breaks down the actual figures. That's a document about 400 pages long. It's available online. So you can go online and you can download those documents and you can contrast. For instance, let me use one example here. I heard them speaking about the refurbishment of the Grenada National Stadium, in particular the cricket stadium and other works that have to be done there. The impression that was being given to you, the unsuspecting public, is that this is a new initiative of the NDC administration. If that is the impression they meant to give you, please understand that that is not so. Because I was very surprised to realize that while announcing that, it was not announced that the Chinese government, and I know the Chinese are listening, the Chinese government are behind that particular project. I think it's into a couple million. If I could remember properly, under the budget document, I think I saw about 5 million in relation to that particular project. So there's roughly about $5 million project. It is a project that the Chinese government have had people on the ground doing the preliminary works months before the general election. I can tell you that because I was on the board of directors of the Grenada National Stadium. So I know for a fact that the technical team out of China were already here in Grenada to ensure that that came to fruition. Yeah, so it's nothing new. It is happening in the time frame that it is supposed to happen. There is a specific rollout to these projects, right? And their time frame. Some projects are slated, you may have, for instance, part of it would start in 2021, another part would start in 2022, a third phase may start in 2023. In 2021, you may have something being constructed and they drop the plans. So you put money inside there for the feasibility study, for them to do the soil testing, for them to do the architectural drawing and renderings and so on, and all of that to be done. The following year, you may have more money in the budget for the same project that now starts the earthworks, the base of what has to be done and so, and the laying of the infrastructure like the water and the pipes and that sort of thing. And then the following year, you realize that the budget increases because now you're going into full-blown construction of that facility. That's what takes place. So when you hear people talking about, for instance, the National Stadium, and giving the impression that that is something that NDC come in and just decide we're going and fix the stadium, that is not true. And there are many other instances within the budget of the same thing. But I want to draw your attention to something here that's very important. Now, as I said, I've followed many budget presentations before. I've been part of budget presentations in 2013, two in 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016. I have been part of budget presentation. In fact, no, not 2016, but 2015, right? So I've been part of the budget presentation. I have been present at budget presentations prior to 2013 and after 2015. Right? So I've been at budget presentations 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and so. Right? So I know what usually takes place at the budget presentation. Now, there is a booklet that is usually distributed at the end of a budget presentation. Whoever the Minister of Finance is, they speak. It happened during the last NDC administration. Then Honorable Nazim Burke would present the budget, and immediately after, you see different staff members, sometimes the people from protocol and so on, they come in with these boxes with the budget document itself, meaning the budget speech, and they share it out. The first people to get it are the members of parliament who are within the parliament there, the House of Representatives. They get copies, senators get copies, business community, whoever else is visiting, they get copies of it. They are then able to go over that document, come up with their own synopsis, and be able to respond in relation to the budget. So you can go along afterwards and you can say, well, okay, I saw this, I saw that, I heard them mention this, I don't agree with this, I agree with this. This year, for some strange reason, that did not happen. In fact, I'm not sure if it happened at all today. No document was presented. In fact, when being asked the questions in relation to the budget and so, it is difficult for the members of the New National Party team to respond to a document that they don't have. The presentation, remember, was over 3 hours long. Can you sit down and take down dictation for 3 hours? So there you may have specific areas that you pick up on, that you can speak on and you might be able to expound on, but you want to be sure is that what was said. So you need a copy of the speech. And it has been tradition for as long as I can remember, and other people that I've spoken to, as long as they can remember as well. It has been tradition that you present everybody with a copy of that document so that when the time comes to respond, they're able to respond and refer to page so and so, or we don't agree with this, or this is incorrect, or we admire that and we applaud that. That was not the case today for some reason. There seems to be some sort of thing that's taking place now where apparently certain individuals do not know their roles. It's seeming that way, that some people don't know what their roles are. And therefore, at a point in time, when this document should have been passed out, instead of that, somewhere minutes to 4 this afternoon, it is emailed out, an electronic copy is sent out. After the cameras have run to the opposition leader and other people and asked questions. And so some people spoke because they were only interested in one area. I think I saw one of the teachers union representatives speaking, another union because they would only be concerned with specific areas. So when they hear the area, they can speak on that area. But the leader of the opposition has to speak on all areas. And instead of ensuring that as per tradition, as per what has been done at every other budget sitting as far back as anybody could remember, that the document was given to everybody immediately at the end of the Minister of Finance's speech, that was not done today. Yeah? So I know, well, they have a press secretary paying $10,000. Maybe she could explain why that didn't take place.
And from the mouth of Grenada.
But then remember, it's the same set of people too who leave out the names of the opposition from the opening of Parliament, the document that is going to be there for in perpetuity. Yet they left out the names of the opposition parliamentarians there. So
December. So
ain't surprising.
to November. Suck salt and drink Nawasa water. When you trick us with campaign promises.
Betty Ann, Annette, Natalia, good night to each of you.
We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you're not.
Antonio, good night to you.
By the way, What will be your theme for the next campaign? It can never be about change again. And in what language are you going to
Mr. Olivier, good night to you, sir.
Japanese or Chinese?
Gemma,
You better wrap up $1,000.
so remember on Thursday is when you're going to have Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, leader of His Majesty's Opposition, former Prime Minister, will be doing his presentation starting at 9 a.m. All right, so make sure you tune in for that one.
But I know you will like this poem, for this poem is a problematic poem.
So because I'm telling you, I was looking at different parts of what they were speaking about and wondering, well, wait. When I see people jumping up and things like, well, you never, or you never listened to our budget before. And there's one particular interesting area for me, and I'll just mention it briefly tonight, but we'll deal with it in more extensively during this week. It's when they speak about reimagining the Imani program. So you have received the $30+ million, you've removed that. That was there for the program. And let me tell you, if there's 30-something million there, it means that out of that, the majority is going towards stipend for these young people. So if you reduce the amount of money that's being spent, it means you also have to reduce the amount of people that you're paying. I am not saying that they're going to fire all the Imani trainees. I am saying that if you reduce the amount of money that you have allocated towards stipends for the amount of people that are in the program right now, it stands to reason, especially with your intention to have an intake of new people, because there's no way that you're going to tell me, if you have any common sense, that there are thousands of young people out here looking for the opportunity to get into a program like the Imani, or as you now say, the reimagined Imani program, that you are not going to give them the opportunity to get into the program. So if you reduce by nearly half the amount of money that's there for the Imani, it means therefore that most likely you will not be retaining the number of people you have in the Imani program right now. I've already been hearing of a situation where the staff that's attached to the Imani program and attached to the Ministry of Youth, and someone could verify if what I'm hearing alleged is true, have been asked to take all their leave. So many of them are already at home, and in some instances, or many instances, it is highly unlikely they may be returning. But we have already heard about that. So explain to us how you reduce the amount of money that is allocated towards stipend for these young people, and you intend to maintain the same number of young people. Now, they've been speaking of a transition strategy. There has always been a transition strategy for the Imani program. Some people, they complete their 2 years and they go into small business, and there have been several instances of that, of young people that have gone from training in an area to starting their own small business in that area, and then you let them go. They're into their own small business. They're no longer under the Imani program. You've had some people who have come into the program and they have transitioned into further education. So they have gone to TAMCC. People who in some instances had no subjects at all got the opportunity to get those subjects at the secondary school level through evening classes, and there were others who had some subjects, or who after getting those subjects, they went to the T.A. Marichaud Community College and they were able to gain their CVQ qualification or the NVQ qualification as may be, right? So to give the impression that is something new to be taking people under the NTA through the Imani program is false. The NTA has been working with the Imani program for several years. It's nothing new. But again, if you have not been listening to budget presentations, if you have not been paying attention when the former administration was speaking about these things, it would seem new to you. So I'm not upset with them, But there are many people who are now finally paying attention to a budget, and they are amazed. But understand this concept first. A budget is basically a wish list. A budget says, this is the amount of money we have now. This is the amount of money we intend to spend. This is the amount of money we expect to get in by grants and loans, etc. Okay, I see a World Bank loan there for a couple million, well, right? These are the amounts of money that we intend to get through loans, etc. And this is what we intend to do. Now, the implementation, I think the last implementation number percentage for the NNP on a budget was 85%. Now, I keep hearing the Prime Minister referring to, oh, the new National Party was supposed to do this. It was in the budget and it wasn't done. It seems as though the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, and the team around him that helped him prepare that budget seem to have forgotten a thing called COVID-19 that started at the end of 2019, and therefore you could not implement most of what you had to implement in 2020. How could you implement projects when the whole country and the whole world was on lockdown? I see there was one particular area, and I'm trying to remember that area, when it was speaking about because something was not implemented in time, it caused an increase in the price and that sort of thing. And what they need to explain to the Grenadian people is why it was not implemented. If you had COVID-19, people were scared for their life. People were scared. You couldn't cough next to anybody. In fact, you still can't cough next to anybody. People were scared for their life. They didn't want people cough around them. They didn't want people come in their place. So various things could not happen. And you also had a situation where there was lack of production in some of the main manufacturing hubs outside of Grenada. So it drove the cost of various things up, because the cost we're paying for even building materials and so on right now is nowhere close to the cost we were paying back in 2019 or 2018 and so on. You know the reasons why. So to give the impression that it was a wicked NNP and they just don't implement the project because they can't implement a project, and to ignore totally the fact that the years 2020 and 2021 were COVID years, were years that you had COVID outbreaks, not only here in Grenada, around the world. Tourism grinded to a halt. The only way we saw tourist ships here in 2020 was when they came to drop off Grenadians that were working with them. The cruise ships didn't come. So when you say certain things that had to be implemented were not implemented, explain to Grenadians. Don't try to twist it. Yeah? Explain to Grenadians why these things were not implemented. But again, they spoke of, for instance, the Stony Gut project in St. John. Now, if you were listening to my previous program I had, which was spot on, and if you were listening to Parliament sittings prior to the election, and if you were listening even on the election campaign to Honorable Alvin Dabrio, he made a point of explaining that one of the things he intended to do, if given another opportunity to be the MP for St. John, was ensure that St. John had its very first housing project. So when you hear about this Stony Gut Climate Resilient Housing Project, that is not an NDC idea. We are glad, especially for the people of St. John, that such a project will be implemented and give an opportunity for the people of St. John to be able to own a home. Yeah? Because there's never been a housing project. People in St. John, they own their own thing, they have their thing, they do their stuff. You might get some building materials under a government project or so, but there has never been a housing project in St. John. So this was intended to be that housing project in St. John. So they have construction due to start in 2023, $2.5 million budgeted towards that, right? So they still have to secure lands in other areas and so. But this was the brainchild. of Alvin Dabrio. And if you're being honest, you would say that. Yeah? You would give praise where praise is due. Right? And now they're speaking about retrofitting the houses, because there's all kind of excuse now, because in Carriacou, where people supposed to have moved into their houses already, it's a situation now where those people haven't gotten the opportunity to move into their houses. They were given their documents. They were told, you go now to Grenlec, you connect your electricity, you pay your down payment, you connect your electricity, you go to Nawasa, and we'll come to Nawasa in a while too, and you connect your water and so on. Instead of that happening now, you have people being told that they have to reapply after already getting a document from the government of Grenada. You have people being told they have to reapply. Now, houses that could have already been given out. You're hearing all sorts of excuse now why the houses are not being given out. Why? Because they need to inquire and filter the list as much as possible to ensure that only their people are the ones that get those houses. Remember, it's 647 housing units that the NNP government got back for the people of Grenada that the prior NDC government had given up and said, give us the money for it. Well, the New National Party getting money and we still get the houses. That's how capable a team the New National Party is.
Serious business.
Folks, don't be afraid to stop me. 440-7377 and 347-329-3101. Those are the numbers you can call to get on the inside. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the phone line much. So you can call in. Give me your views in relation to the budget. It's roughly 17 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock.
Everything is fine while I take you down a poetic line. Trick us with campaign promises. We won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you.
And it was very interesting listening to the Prime Minister speaking about women's empowerment and gender equality, and trying to give the impression that his government has done so much for women. Listen, under the New National Party, the majority of permanent secretaries in ministries were women. Yeah? The majority of, when you check the parliamentarians, right? You had the sisters out of St. Andrew. You had Dr. Clarice Modest Cohen. Yeah? When you check the history of the New National Party, you'd understand the New National Party has always been a party that treats women equally. That women have always had a fair say. Remember, you had Miss Leslie Onsion at a point in time as the president of the Senate. You've had women holding all different portfolios. Yeah? Within the party and also within government from time to time. So the New National Party has always been a party that embraced women and embrace youth. So when you're trying to give the impression that all of a sudden, and you mention things like the Grenada Spotlight Initiative. The Grenada Spotlight Initiative, hello, is not a new initiative. It has been around for quite a while right now. You're just implementing another phase of the Grenada Spotlight Initiative. That deals with issues such as ending violence in the home, ending violence against women, but not just against women, because it's a woman that beaten up the man too. So violence against men, violence against women, against children, and that sort of thing. So the Grenada Spotlight Initiative is a program that has been there. It's not a new program. That's why they had to say that their administration continues the implementation. But you see, the word continues eludes some of the people who've been listening. So when they're speaking about these things, it's as though it's something new, because again, they never listened to a budget presentation before. They have never listened to a budget presentation before.
Refrain. All your projects are stuck in a pipeline. But when asked, how is the country going? Oh, fine. We are looking into it. Never mind. Only projects in pipeline. No water to cool down the yellow temperature.
Kathy and Stephanie, hey, Kathlina, yeah, boy, somebody tell me call the name today, because I have another issue I look aside from the budget that I had to mention in a while. but I don't want us to lose the trend of thought as I'm on the budget right now. I want to kind of stay on the budget, but there's other things I have to mention too, because it has some kind of things taking place while we are focused on the budget. There are other things taking place, and we have to listen to what some of the other things are. We have to pay attention to what some of the other things are, because you don't want things to slip under the radar right now. Remember, they already put the leader of the opposition to talk this Thursday, hoping that he doesn't make the news Thursday night and he doesn't make the news Friday night, and whatever he says, that done, that nobody is listening to it again. Which is why it's important for you to be there, you to listen, and you to share the information of what happens on Thursday, and also the presentation by the rest of the new National Party team. You need to listen to what Peter Charles David has to say, because you know he's a man that cares, and he cares about poor people children. And every day you see him in the court fighting for who? Poor people children. While other people talk about love, he shows love. He's an individual that's there. Whether they could, let me don't say that because next thing the man continue to get paid. It's a business he running. But is a man who takes care of poor people children. And many of you out there can attest to that fact. You don't need me to tell you. You can attest to that fact. Yeah? Because he's paid in love by many of you out there. But every day you can find him. Every Monday to Friday, you can find him at the courthouse, fighting on behalf of poor people children. You have the Honorable Emlyn Pear, whose historical background in relation to youth development, not just in Grenada, but in the region, is unparalleled by anybody on that NDC team. There's nobody could put themselves in she's shoes when it comes to the issue of youth development. What she has achieved positively, the thousands of young people who got employment through initiatives that she started, the thousands of lives that she has changed positively. There's nobody on the NDC side that could come and make the same claims. I challenge them. Anybody on the NDC side that could come and stand up and put their record next to hers and say that their record is better than hers when it comes to youth development. None. Yeah? You have Honorable Clarice Modest Kerwin. And she has been exemplary over the years in any department she's been placed, whether it's the Ministry of Works or Tourism or Foreign Affairs, wherever it is, she has delivered. So when you hear her speaking in Parliament on the budget presentation, she's speaking from a point as the mother of the house. She's speaking from a point of knowing, understanding, been there for an extended period of time, had experience in various ministries, and understands what is going on. So you can't pull wool over Auntie Clarice's eyes. You can't. She knows what is going on. You have Honorable Delma Thomas, a woman again who is pure love, who would take the last halfpenny out of her pocket and still break it in two to give to people. And she has been exemplary as well in the portfolios which she has held from 2013 up to this year. And we will be hearing from her. So when you look at that new National Party team, because I don't have to tell you about Dr. Mitchell, you know about Dr. Mitchell. I don't have to tell you about Dr. Mitchell. I could tell you about Kate Skeeter Lewis, and I could tell you that Skeeter ain't backward at all. That she has historical precedent in relation to youth development. And congratulations, Skeeter. I realize Paradise win on the weekend. I know you're like, I know Skeeter is loving herself. Sorry, the Honorable Lois Peters is loving herself because Paradise won the championship on the weekend. I know that's your team. So I know she's smiling all the way right now. Yeah? So you have that new National Party team there in the House of Representatives. And don't forget, we have another team coming up soon we're going to talk about in the Senate. But you have that new National Party team that's there in the House of Representatives that will give a proper accounting of themselves, of their stewardship between the last budget and when they left office in June and what they have done since then. they will be able to give a proper accounting of their stewardship and also to offer varying perspectives on the figures and the information that has been put out. But it's because you see, these individuals that are speaking right now, are listening, and I look around at some of them, and I know I've been to budget presentations. I've been following budget presentations since it was in the old Parliament building, not even Trade Center, when it was in the old Parliament building. That's down at the top of Market Hill there. Knox House. Been following Parliament since there. I never see these people before. They never paid attention. I follow some of them on social media, budget reading, and most they pick up the main points and they don't follow up on anything else. But now they are the biggest experts in relation to the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the state of Grenada for the year 2023. So they are the ones exposing all these grand platitudes all over the place in relation to budget. So they can't tell you that the National Stadium lighting is something that has been there, that was twinned with the lighting of La Sagesse, that there's now $1 million in the budget for, so that when the lighting of the National Stadium, the cricket side, takes place, it is a continuance of a project under the new National Party and not a new initiative of the NDC administration. Because I'm finding it hard looking through, apart from removing VAT on condoms, I'm finding it hard to see any new initiative of the NDC administration. And let me speak a bit for the farmers here. If you're zero rating items, and I'll explain why I'm saying what I'm saying. I'll explain why I'm saying what I'm saying. Let me take a piece of music and let me just, it's that time.
One bell a ring. If we didn't know, we never know yellow would have treat us so. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is.
Yeah, York House.
In vain, hoping you'll ease this train.
Knox House is another facility.
You now refrain. They began with the blame game, giving NNP more fame. Past administration, the cost.
And Depot, that is correct. Before I go to the point that I have to make, I haven't forgotten it. I'm coming to that point.
Then two economic
Depot is saying eating healthy, drinking healthy can't be achieved overnight. Punishing those who still drink sweet water because they can't buy top shelf stock must not be punished. Means ice cream, cakes, etc. up. Now, you would realize that Grenada is now the only country in the region that does not have sugar zero rated. Sugar, cane sugar, has been zero rated. Even when VAT was introduced, sugar was zero rated. Now it means that the price of sugar is going up, right? Now, whether you are a person who uses too much sugar or you use just enough sugar, the bottom line is that you want to use your sugar. Yeah? Those of us who are from families that have diabetes and that sort of thing, we know we have to be careful with our sugar intake, and we ought to be careful with our sugar intake, right? But now you're increasing the cost of the sugary drinks. You're increasing the cost of all of those things. There is an effect, because there'll be an effect on the traffickers who are bringing these things in. But since the price of sugar going up, I'm very interested in knowing which company will be contracted to bring sugar into this island. And I'll be very interested in knowing as well who are the principals behind any company that's given the opportunity to bring sugar, be it brown, white, or if they have pink and all. Whatever sugar is being brought into this country, I'm very interested in knowing who are the principals behind that company. And don't tell me Marketing and National Importing Board. I am very interested in knowing who is going to be bringing the sugar. Since the price of the sugar going up, I want to know who is going to be bringing the sugar into the country. If that company or group of individuals are receiving any concessions from the government of Grenada. Yeah? So you're seeing that the price of beer and other things is going to go up, and there are health concerns, and we must admit that there are health concerns. We've heard the former Prime Minister and the present political leader of the new National Party speaking on this issue several times, asking people to cut back and using himself as an example. Yeah, I myself have found myself drinking more water and less of these sugary drinks. Yeah, because it's important to do that. So I find myself now drinking more water. And you see me drinking more water here. And for some reason, I can't find no bottle. I think I left it outside. That I usually would be drinking my water now. People who know me before know it's a Coca-Cola you see me have here. You know for a fact it's a Coca-Cola you see me have here. If that green apple still, I would be drinking a green apple or something. Because I like Coca-Cola and that sort of thing. But it's not the best thing to be drinking all the time. But remember, there are also industries in Grenada that depend on sugars, like the small confectionery makers and so, who are now going to be negatively infected because their cost of operation is going up. And it's going to affect the bottom line for them, their businesses. So that has to be taken into consideration as well. I'm also hearing of increase in the water rate, and I'm very interested to peruse the document when it's finally handed out, hard copy or whatever, or at least to go through the digital copy and see what it says, actually says in relation to the water rate. As I said, there are certain things that I don't want to get into deeply tonight because I have not read through the entire document in detail. I'm going to take tonight, when I'm finished here, I'm going to take tonight and I'm going to go through that document with a fine-tooth comb. What I've seen so far tells me that there is a lot of stuff in there that are half-truths in some instances, that are giving a wrong impression in others. And there are a lot of stuff that are just continuations of projects that were taking place under the New National Party.
It's a problematic poem.
Right, so coming to what I wanted to speak about a while ago, on behalf of the farmers of the country. If you have stated that one of your key pillars, one of the areas that you're going to develop the Grenadian economy is the area of agriculture and agro-processing, that quote unquote, we have too much mangoes falling all over the place. First of all, let's debunk that nonsense once and for all. The mangoes that falling all over the place, half of them have no taste, you can't make nothing with them. If you're going to get into serious manufacturing of mango nectar, etc., you would have to plant proper mango trees with the proper, need I say the word sugar? Yes, but with the proper sugar content and the proper pulp and so on. You'd have to plant specific species of mangoes in large numbers to be able to supply that manufacturing plant over a period of time. The mangoes that fall in all over the place, generally, are no mangoes people want. You know that, I know that, because the reason they're falling is because nobody eating them, nobody want a mango. So what you're going to take them to do, they have no taste. Some of them watery as what? They have no sugar content, next to zero, right? So if you're going into agriculture in the sense of agro-processing, that's one thing you need. The second thing that you would need if you're going into agro-processing in a serious way are various ways of ensuring that the price of energy goes down. And I'm glad to see that a significant amount of money has now been placed into the budget in relation to exploration of geothermal. But I'll say to the government that the government of New Zealand already paid, and there is already a document in existence in relation to geothermal energy production here in Grenada. In case you all don't know, let me just tell you all. There is already a document. The government of New Zealand paid for it. And it's here. It's done. That document is here in relation to geothermal energy. The problem was until the acquisition of Grenlec, and we're going to come to the acquisition of Grenlec just now, the acquisition of Grenlec, that there was nothing really the government could do with it except just pass the information on to Grenlec. Because they were the only people by law that were allowed to produce electricity in Grenada. So government couldn't do it. They couldn't get a third party to do it. Grenlec had to do it. And if Grenlec didn't want to do it, well, they didn't even buy a 2-engine before they leave. They let the engines run down. They let the engines run down before they go. And then the government of Grenada had to come in and spend $16 million to buy an engine. And now you're hearing that the other engines are going down. And who are you hearing it from? The lawyer from Grenlec, who is now the Prime Minister of Grenada. So if you're interested in agricultural production and improving agricultural production in Grenada, I thought that some of the things that you would have on that zero-rated list instead of condom would have been agricultural implements. So I thought things like seedling, fertilizer, agricultural implements like shovels and so on, that you would have zero rate or at least cut the rate of VAT on some of those items, or maybe I'm wrong and those things already on the zero rated list, because when I look at the zero rated list, I ain't see nothing like that. So if you're looking to improve agricultural production in Grenada, I would think that one of the areas that you'd look at is zero rating the inputs in the agricultural area. Even the same goes with fishing. It's good to speak all the good thing about fishing and, oh, we're going to pump $40 million into fishing and that sort of thing. And that's the most money has ever been pumped. That is not true. But that's the most amount of money that's been pumped into fishing and all this nonsense. Yes, it's good to say it. The implementation is different. And if you're implementing, then the implements that the people are using to go out and fish, to ensure that they're safe, the safety equipment and so you make sure that you zero rate that so that they would get cheaper. Instead of zero rating the items to the fishermen, like the safety jacket and the survival equipment like the flashlight and the radios and those sort of things that they need to go out there. And even the implements they use like the long lines and all of that. That the guys in Petit Martinique who do the fishing and in St. John and in St. Andrew and even down in Caliste and St. George and those who leave from the fish market in town and so on, that all of these people would have a reduction in the cost of operating and therefore make more profit, because you would have reduced the amount of money they have to spend to get these. They can't do it without it that they need for that. Check the zero rated list and tell me how many items you see there as agricultural items and for fishing that they have zero rated and they're so interested in fishing and agriculture. Instead, what they have done is zero rate items for the creative industry. And let's talk about the creative industry, because I think several false statements have been made in relation to the creative industry. One, it is untrue to say that no money. No, Mr. Prime Minister, you'll have an opportunity to talk again. You better take that one back. It is untrue to say that no money was placed in the creative industry. Carnival is part of the creative industry. Millions of dollars are being spent every year in relation to Carnival. Carnival receives, the Spice Mass Corporation receives a subvention from the government of Grenada for the operation of Carnival. That is money in the creative industry. The Spice Mass Corporation, the Ministry of Culture, as well as the Grenada Cultural Foundation, who also receive a subvention from the government of Grenada into the hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year, they have also done work in the creative industry, engaging artists, etc. in various parts of Grenada, even doing training with people in the creative industry, doing judges seminars and so on, doing training with mass bands and all that sort of thing. And I'm not speaking about everything that's done in the last year, but over the years, you've had various bits and pieces of these things being done. So to come out and say that no money has been paid towards the creative industry over the years, and this is the first time you've put money in the creative industry, is a blatant lie. It is untrue. It is a fib. It is not real. Yeah? It is false. Money has been placed under the creative industry over the years. If you're saying there are new areas and expanded areas that you have now pumped additional money into, all well and good. Don't lie. Don't give the impression that no. So where's Carnival? So we don't have a Grenada Cultural Foundation. So we've never put money under the Ministry of Culture. You may argue and say that not enough was put, because as far as I'm concerned, you could never have enough money under the creative industry. You could never have enough money under there. But understand what's being done by the NDC administration here. Because I'm going to let you know what they're doing. Now, they have zero-rated items for a specific category of people. So, instance, those who are involved in, if you want to make a movie and you're buying the cameras and all those sort of things, and the storage devices and all of those kind of things. Cameras, lights, storage devices, doilies, all those things that you buy, that you're going to use in that. They have zero rated that. Not in agriculture, not in fishing. They have zero rated those items in the creative industry. So the cameramen, the photographers, they can bring in their equipment zero rated for 12 months starting in February. They could bring it in. The newspapers who exist still, we don't have actual newspapers, but we have online publications and so. And they may qualify technically as part of the creative industry. They're graphic artists and so who design their newspaper. They can qualify to, whether it's they want to buy a Macintosh, which is very expensive. They could buy the Mac. They could buy the high-end computers. They could buy the scanners, the cameras, the printers, that sort of thing. They can buy all of that because it's under the creative industry. The reason that is being done is to tie all the media houses. Remember, I tell you that. The reason that the NDC has zero-rated these items is not so much that they're interested in the creative industry. Remember what Goebbels used to do with Hitler. They control the media. So when they wanted to eliminate the Jews, what they did is they made movies saying that the Jews was wicked, the Jews was bad, the Jews was evil. That's what they did. And they created a mindset in Germany that the Jews were subhuman, that they were not real. And they did that using the media. They had newspapers, they wrote books. And those days you went to the movie theater. So you went to the movie theater and the movie theaters were telling you one story. The newspapers were telling you that story. The radio was telling you that story. Even the live performances, the plays and so on, were telling you the same story, that these people wicked, get rid of them. Until a mindset was created in Germany that these people were wicked, let's get rid of them. So they treated them as subhuman, and we know what happened in World War II with that. You saw that again in Rwanda when the media was used to put one tribe against the other and cause that massacre that took place. And I'm not saying that we're heading to bloodshed and that sort of thing in Grenada. No. Grenadians are not that type of people. Yeah, we had our incidents in the past before, but we ain't going down that road again. I think all of us learned from that. So we ain't going down that direction again. What I am saying though, is that those items were zero rated to create that loving relationship with the bloggers. And we saw one blogger out of Trinidad was saying that he was paid $2,000 by a person who was a candidate then and who's an MP now to put out negative stories towards the new National Party. So you know there's already a precedent of what I'm speaking about here. You saw other people who are considered popular on social media out of Trinidad and both here in Grenada who suddenly had very anti-NNP stories to put out. Now, those same people, those in Grenada, can purchase equipment very cheaply and get it into Grenada without having to pay anything for it. It is all part of a broader strategy to control the message that you hear, to control the message that you see, and to control the message that you read. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand anything about politics.
To allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy.
So you zero rate things for the creative industry, but the agriculture industry that you so speak about, where's the zero rated for the year? They could get concessions by applying through the GIDC. I ain't saying no. I'm making sure that people know you could get the concessions through the GIDC. If you apply, you have your business, you apply, and that sort of thing, you could get certain concessions there. But why make people go through that when you could zero rate all the implements, the inputs into the agricultural industry? Since you're doing things and you want to do things to create an industry, zero rate those items. But check the zero rated list and tell me how many agricultural input items you're seeing zero rated there.
Recession, the cause of poverty in the land. Economic recession, no employment for the ordinary man. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you're not refrain.
Yeah, and that was most obvious. If you're speaking about eating healthy, you zero rate, you zero rate oils. The thing that has clogged up your arteries and that kind of thing, no matter the type of oil. The thing that's clogged up your artery that they say don't eat things fried in oil and made in oil and so. Eat healthy, but those are the things that
Answer that. Oh, soon.
You know something I realized as well? I realized that lottery tickets have been removed off of the zero-rated list together with newspapers. So I realize now, maybe, and I think this has to be explained, maybe you might have to pay more for your lottery ticket because it is no longer a zero-rated item. Yeah, it was zero-rated, so you bought a lottery ticket, you didn't pay VAT on that. Now, that has been taken off the zero-rated list. So I'm wondering now if that means that the price of the lottery ticket. Now, what I want to confirm is if they're speaking specifically to the paper that's brought in by the National Lottery Authority to print the tickets, or the ticket itself when it's purchased by an individual. But I realize that lottery tickets and all have been removed off of the zero-rated list, but condom is on, so you know.
You didn't see us down by the brewery when they send SSU to between. Trick us with campaign promises. We won't say.
Yes, Antonio, we don't give any money to the creative sector, but bands receive subvention on a yearly basis. Ask the Mass Band Association. Bands receive subvention. The Calypso tents receive subvention. Yeah? Assistants were given to Calypsonians. A whole music lab was developed and built down in the ministerial complex. You've had people going out like Pastor Casimir and so on, going out and teaching, yeah, music in the schools and so on, but they said no money was put into the creative sector. Maybe those are not creative, I don't know.
Promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you're not refrain. You're not refrain. You remember in the Bible, God had a plan for Jonah to restore Nineveh. But who will restore Grenada? Is it the same Jonah? Lots of doubt, so I ain't running up my mouth. And I ain't counting no chicken before the hatch. Politicians sometimes form a crooked batch. After they get the vote, they not sing one note. But here comes Fort Judy and Nancy Payne, with $1 million house and brand new car on the scene, while our hungry belly still grumbling. And you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain.
Yeah, imagine another one someone just reminded me of. There was this big announcement of the social partners that we're going to now have a social partners. Hey, yo! Since 2013, you had social partners. In case you don't know, go and ask Ray Roberts, because he used to represent the trade unions on the social partners committee. They used to meet at the ministerial complex. You had the unions represented. You had other entities represented, and we believe the churches and so on. And they had a say. And the social partners was created because after the New National Party won all 15 seats in 2013, that's where the 13 come from, 2013, it was decided that you have to let people have their say and the different organizations have their say. And the social partners was created. So when I see you re-announcing, because you can't be announcing something that already existed, you could be re-announcing or re-implementing or refurbishing the social partners. But that is not something new. I mean, it has some of us out here that know what's going on, and it's not all of us that never follow a budget and never read a budget before. It have many of us out here who follow budgets religiously on a yearly basis, so we know what's taking place. So when you come and you announce social partners committee like if it's something new, some of them NGO people may be watching like, what are you talking about? The union people who know may be watching like, oh, he wasn't around, he wasn't here. Well, we know he was moving in certain circles. But like he wasn't here because he didn't realize that these things pre-existed him. It pre-existed his entrance into politics. It's nothing new. You ain't come with something that's so amazing. Yeah? So when you hear these things, you have to keep wondering exactly if these individuals were here all the time, you know. Seriously. You have to wonder if these individuals were here all the time. Because it doesn't seem as though they were living in the same Grenada with us all the time. It's like they were living in a different Grenada probably.
Is a powerful thing when you lose your rightful thinking. So we voted for the bling. But you trick us with campaign promises, we would say.
And listen, if you go through the document carefully and you listen to the speech carefully, they give it with the right hand and they take it with the left.
Yellow, all the way is what everybody say. Cell phone ring, man answering yellow, yellow, no.
Yeah, that's interesting. You didn't hear, I don't think I heard anything about the cannabis industry.
Even green get yellow, and so
Yeah, fellas, the fellas who blazing right now, lighting up the look of thing, nothing about all and the cannabis industry and thing, Remember, the campaign promise was legalization. The New National Party was speaking about decriminalization. In other words, you decriminalize it so people can have, but they have small amounts, so whether it's 2 ounces or 3 ounces or whatever of marijuana that you can legally have, and you could sit down, you have it, the police find you with that, you have a legal amount, they will not arrest you, they will not charge you for it, right? If you have a local over, maybe it's a ticketable offense that they give you a ticket and say, well, what you're doing with 12 ounces, you're only supposed to have 3, right? So we ain't hear nothing about that. Yeah? We ain't hear nothing about the cannabis industry. That was promised. That was high on the portfolio, ain't it? That was one of the things, youth men out on the block, and they was telling all you that it was smoke free. They were going to totally just legalize it. So everybody could have how much tree they want and do what they want and that kind of thing. All of a sudden, nothing about the marijuana industry. Campaign promises again.
economic recession, the cause of poverty in the land. Economic recession, no employment for the ordinary man. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease.
Not trick us, not trick some of them.
We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain.
Don't worry, I ain't smoking. I don't smoke. I can't smoke. Asthmatic. That doesn't mess me up if I smell smoke. So.
Fine. We are looking into it.
But I know many of you went out and you vote because you want to be able to blaze. You understand? But you hear anything about it in the budget? You was listening. Did you hear anything about it in the budget? Yeah? Because how long does it take to just legislate to remove that off of the law books? If they want to not decriminalize, as the New National Party was going and do, but if they want to legalize, fully legalize, you just strike it off the law books. But they ain't doing that, no. And some all still going to jail for it and all kind of thing right now. They tell all you they're legalizing it, so all still going to jail for it. Because very interestingly, let's have a conversation about a particular part of the budget. And let me see if I could locate where that particular part is. I'm seeing something else that I must come back to. And that I'm looking for it. Yes. Financing of the budget. Can anyone, the phone number is 440-7377. 440-7377. And if you're out in North America, you're in Canada or you're in the US, 347-329-3101. Anybody that listened to the budget presentation today, can you kindly inform me? Can you kindly tell me if by listening to the budget you heard where the money to finance that budget is coming from? Where's the money coming from? Because I've seen where they're speaking about money is going to be coming from the consolidated fund. Well, yes, there's money in the consolidated fund because the New National Party did such an excellent job with the Grenadian economy over the past few years, including the 2 years of COVID lockdown and uncertainty, that the New National Party administration did so good during those years that there's money in the consolidated fund for you to use. But if you're taking money out of the consolidated fund, it means you have to find a way of putting money back into the consolidated fund. And if you're saying to us, I haven't seen it, I'm still looking to see where it is, because you're saying that you're going to get some of the money from domestic sources. So let's look at the areas that they've said here financing this budget. Now they say domestic sources. So the central bank, commercial banks, regional government securities market, right? So that means that they have to basically go and loan, because it's not like the central bank and these others are going to give you that money just like that, right? Unless you have grant funding from something like the Caribbean Development Bank towards a specific project, right? So other than that, you have to be going for loans, external sources, new loan disbursements. So in other words, you're going to go into taking a pile of loans again. All right? After we've had the Fiscal Responsibility Act in place, you had to step it aside because of COVID and so, but it should be reenacted to ensure that you didn't go over a certain level to create a situation where you increase your GDP when your GDP should be, at a level. Nice. But the one that's most interesting to me under the 2023 budget is other sources, drawdown from the Consolidated Revenue Fund and disposal of assets. You hear what I just say? And disposal of assets. In other words, to fund this budget, you had to sell things. They didn't say that they go in and get a grant from some country or the other, they borrow in here and things. They say that. But the last thing they said, and they kind of hide it, they tag it on the end. It says, and disposal of assets. That is what the Prime Minister said. Right? Drawdown from the Consolidated Fund. The Consolidated Fund is not never ending. There's a certain amount of money in there and you have to replenish it. So you have to find ways of replenishing it. And they have said here, disposal of assets. Any of you could guess which asset is going first? Let me see how smart you all are. Because I know you all who are listening to this program, brilliant. So which asset you think they're going to dispose of?
Obligation. No one knows me none, so everything is fine, fine. I said I am that I am, I am, I am.
There's one of these things is not like the other. Which one is different? Do you know? Which of these assets is ready to be sold and go?
I am, I am, I am. I am that I am.
There is a particular asset that's going, and they said it in the budget document that they are disposing assets. Now, what assets they could dispose of? Now, you've got the Gravel and Concrete Emulsion Corporation, and due to statements that were made by the Prime Minister before, on him just taking office, he spoke to government not running certain entities like Gravel and Concrete and another one called Grenlec. And there may be others on the chopping block as well, yeah.
While I take you down the poetic line, trick us with campaign promise.
Well, you never know, it could be Cameron Park too, you know. I see Maria said, you never know. I was hearing stories about Cameron Park up until recently. So it could be Cameron Park too. Because I heard an investor come in and made a good offer in relation to developing Cameron Park into some kind of thing or the other with food court and so on, so on, so on. Some people was listening, so.
Sounded so good to believe. And deception is a powerful thing when you lose your rightful thinking. So we voted for the bling. But you trick us.
So Cameron, we don't know. We don't know it could be Cameron Park.
We've waited.
There are countries that have actually privatized their airport. So don't be surprised you hear in the near future that down to the Maurice Bishop International Airport is for sale, because it's not me say, it's the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance say that one of the ways that they're going to finance this 1 point whatever billion dollar budget is that they're going to dispose of assets. In other words, things that now you, the Grenadian people, own are going to be placed on the chopping block. Yeah? They are going to be sold, right?
You have, but you don't know what you go get. So cherish what you have to diminish regret. But what on earth lasts forever?
So while on one side of the mouth they're speaking about, geothermal energy and that you're going to generate electricity, because they take my idea now. You remember as we was talking about put solar panels on all government buildings, you realize they include that in the budget now? You all didn't realize that? Yeah, because they're listening. They're listening so much that Commissioner Martin back to work today. That is how much they're listening. Yeah? So, they have said that they're going to place solar panels on government buildings and that they're going to look at geothermal. The same two things that over the past couple of weeks we have been speaking about here in relation to reduce the electricity costs in Grenada. Because it is only when you reduce the electricity costs, you could start speaking about things like proper manufacturing on the large scale. Yeah? Large scale. That is the only way you could really get into production and manufacturing if you reduce the cost of production. Because other than that, you're going up against countries next door like Trinidad. The reason Trinidad was flooded is because it's so flat, and therefore they can grow miles upon miles of peppers and so on and say they're making pepper sauce. Miles upon miles of different things and say they're making ketchup and all these kind of things. While in Grenada, we have very rich soil. It is not flat, so it's not suited to mechanical working. You can't put machines on them as such because you have hillsides and that sort of thing. All right? We have better produce. They're much more fresh. Our rich organic soil, yeah, makes much fresher produce. But in the volume that you need to sustain factories, it is very difficult to get the volumes here in Grenada. So if you're getting less volumes or you have to purchase from other islands to keep your factories operating, at least your operating cost should be low. So it means, therefore, that your electricity costs, you need to do what is necessary to get that down. That's where geothermal and solar comes in. But they're looking to dispose assets because remember, they speak about, for the first time in how much years dividends were not paid and that sort of thing. So they're studying. You see how corporate lawyers, they study. They ain't studying that you catching your nenen to pay your electricity bill right now. What they are studying is that the shareholders of Grenlec, other than the government of Grenada, they receive a dividend. They receive dividend every year, right? They receive their dividend, and that's all well and good and legal, and I'm happy for them. I never jealous anybody receiving their money. So they're receiving their money. But you catching your nenen, some are afraid to look at the electricity bill when it reach. I had a little app on my phone. I had a little, see how my phone mash up and thing here. I had a little app on it that I could check and see and so on, right? And some of you afraid to put that app because you don't want to see, you're afraid to see the bill. When the bill reach, you're afraid to open it. Yeah? But they're studying you. You heard them speaking today about the shareholders and the shareholders' dividends. Because they're studying you, the mother who is out there with 4 children and struggling to pay that electricity bill to keep the lights on so that your children could have an education, they could come home in the night and they could study and so on. And they could use the computers and the devices and so on. They ain't studying them. They're studying the shareholders and the dividends. Right? So since they're studying the shareholders and the dividends so much, guess which government-owned entity is going to be first on the chopping block? And tell me if you all are going to stay there and allow that entity to be sold. Again, let me tell you exactly where it is. 6.3 in the budget document, financing of the 2023 budget. Yeah? Point number 3, other sources, drawdown from the Consolidated Revenue Fund and disposal of assets. Tell me what the assets are that they're going to, what asset does government have that they're going to sell? Are you going to privatize the Port Authority? Yeah, there are countries that have done that. They've privatized their Port Authority. They've handed the operation over to another entity and so on. And they're operating it and so on. The government receives a yearly fee or whatever in relation to it for the operations. And they keep in charge of the security and customs and that kind of thing. Is that the direction you're heading? Is Camohon Park that going? The Port Authority? The airport? Grenlec? Maybe even Nawasa? We don't know. But they just made a broad statement. They didn't come and say, well, these are the things that we're looking to do. Remember, the last NDC administration, they sell assets till they sell assets they didn't own. So I had a situation where there was one property that was sold to the NIS, and then when they're trying to find out, the thing actually didn't belong to the government of Grenada, and it had to be given back to the correct owners. So you had assets that were sold until assets that didn't even belong to the government of Grenada were sold. You had shares that the government of Grenada had in different entities that were sold. That was under the last NDC administration. Properties that were sold under the last administration. And it seems as though this one is looking to head the same direction. So one of the ways they're planning to finance the budget is not by zero rating items under agriculture and fisheries to increase the ability of the fishermen to bring in more fish so that they could make $60-70 million off a fish in the state of Grenada. Yeah? Not that they're going to deal with the agricultural industry to zero it agricultural inputs into the entire thing so that you can increase production and maybe even get into manufacturing and so. No, it is disposal of assets. 4407377. I'm sorry for the caller who's been calling, and I didn't notice the way I had the microphone, it was blocking the light itself. So you can call now, yeah? No, I needed to speak about that one today. I couldn't let that one pass, yeah? Yeah, disposal, not me say, check the budget document, it's there. Well, if they finally give you a budget document, but it's there.
Man and man must reason. So, I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple information I will use. No rocket science to get you confused. So relax your mind. Make sure every...
Sometimes it does have to give somebody a look by the Star Academy. I think they are down in the Limes. There's a little academy, the preschool down in the Limes there. They are having their annual school fair that's taking place this Thursday. All right. And they have ice cold drinks, face painting, ring toss, bouncing castle, fun dips, raffles, and much more. Barbecue chicken and chips, cakes and pastries. And that is from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. So after I come out Parliament, yeah, I'll go make a little pass down there and give all you a little sale. All right, that is Star Academy down in the Limes. Yeah, sometimes you have to help out a little brethren and sister and thing, you understand, yeah? No problem telling all of that. So all you down in the Limes, make a little pass and thing and help you people out. Yeah?
Yellow, yellow all the way is what everybody say. Cell phone ring, man answering. Yellow, yellow, no hello. Teeth get yellow, house get yellow, bus get yellow, man get yellow, even green get yellow, and so says 11-4. When you trick us with campaign pro.
Yeah, so the caller was calling for 4407377 and trying to keep an eye on the phone this time.
You list the strain, but you now refrain. You now refrain. Old school parables say you know what you have, but you don't know what you go get. So cherish what you have to diminish regret. But what on earth lasts forever? Not even things created by the great Jehovah. So the green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy.
And you see, they keep talking about, oh, we've allocated 54.3 million to fisheries and agriculture. And that's more than the previous administration gave to fisheries and agriculture. And so, we're giving more money. Yeah, you've allocated more. Let's see your implementation this time next year. Let's have that discussion of whether you actually spent 54.3 million if you actually implemented what you said you would implement in those areas. So it's easy to say we put in more money, because I remember a man coming to $1 billion budget and right after he had to come and beg for money to finance the $1 billion budget, you know. That happened right here in Grenada. Not under NNP administration, but under NDC administration. They came and they told you $1 billion, the first $1 billion budget. First $1 billion budget, boss. E-boss. You hear about the $1 billion budget and then you're looking to see, but where's the financing coming from? They couldn't tell you. To the point where they couldn't even do another budget the following year. The NNP had to win the election, come in and immediately do a budget. They had to open parliament quick in 2013. And have a parliament session to pass a budget because you were right there. You had to legally have a budget in place for the state of Grenada. There was none. That is what the NDC do before. So when NDC speaking about budget and so, I take it with not a pinch of salt, but they have to be careful now because next thing they start to put tax on salt and all kind of thing too. Afraid to say a pinch of salt. Next thing they put tax on that.
The vex face. When you trick us with campaign promises.
Or the last government put $0 for the create. Lie. Not true. Lie. Yeah? We have a... Oops. Yeah, I think we have a caller online. Good night.
Good night, sir. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm quite fine. How are you?
Great, man. Great.
All right, go right ahead.
Yes, my thing is this, right? I know a lot of people are applying for those. I don't know if it's the stimulus package loan or whatever it's been called, right? And I don't know to what extent how this whole thing is being managed, but I think that money could have been put into more serious use in a sense of probably the money is being given to people, but they should have a business plan where people could take $10,000 and invest it and get more money from it. Instead of, I think, when you hear some of the people are saying they're going to buy this for the house and they're going to buy that for the house and whatnot and whatnot. It should be designed in a business venture where people could make more money out of it. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Go right ahead.
you understand? So that is my take on that part of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the money because whatever is there, people should get something good out of it instead of just take it and just spend it in a unmannerly way. You understand where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the money is there, whoever gives to give the people the money, but design in a way that somebody could take that money and get the benefit from this on a longer run. Maybe change some people's life to some extent.
Well, let me say this to you, caller. What I've said before, and what I'll continue to say, is that we have a prime minister who believes in populist actions. When I say that, he does things for popularity. Not that it's necessarily the best thing to do for Grenada, if you look at the economy and you look at various things. So, on one hand, you'd hear him speaking about, oh, we gave the nurses $6,000 extra every year. But the part about them taking 24,000, he's exempted, but the others having 24,000 additional for the year is left out. Yeah? So he's taking populist viewpoints and populist stances, not necessarily sensible, not necessarily economically viable, but he's taking positions that he believes will make friends and influence people. So it's not about developing you. It's about developing the cult of personality around himself and his team.
Well, that is not a problem. I don't have a problem in that getting personal gains or political mileage, but we should also seek to better someone's life on a longer run, where somebody could have a small business now and then take that money and have them expand it to a different scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we want to see people's life being changed and not just go and buy a fridge or a TV or a washing machine or something of that sort. And then not. And so what's the difference between a handout? Because before we were talking a lot about people being handed down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why you? I mean, this is similarity of it. If it's been like that, in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to see. You don't want to see that happening. So you can criticize one thing one way, and then actually you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, so
Since you have the money, use it in the right manner to change the lives of the people. My thing is that we should help people to change life at the end.
well, look at this. If you're, for instance, if you're saying you're giving money to small and medium-sized businesses and someone is involved in an agricultural business, you're giving it with the right hand and you're taking it back with the left, because what you should have done is zero-rated the items that this individual has to use in the agricultural sector, because you have as one of your pillar areas where you're going to develop the economy of Grenada. Now, if you just give it to the right hand and you take it back with the left, what sense does that really make?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. But as I said, even like as we currently speak, there are many greens that is not available in Grenada at present time. We don't see much of tomatoes and other items, where the farmers could have given those monies and help them and say, look, plant more, give them some sort of encouragement and bring them more to the forefront. You know, we can feed, make them a better business person where they can have a better family, organize and take care of the people in a more better way. Yeah?
All right.
Okay,
Thank you so very much, caller. Nice.
Welcome.
4407377. That's the number for you to call and get on to the inside. And again, my New York posse, 347-329-3101. Yeah, I'm very interested in knowing what are the assets to be disposed of. I can think I know, but maybe it might be something else, because all of us could be saying Grand Lake, and next thing is Maurice Bishop International Airport. Next thing we end up with Maurice Bishop Highway as a toll highway. You know, it's a toll highway. You have to pay to travel on the highway. Yeah, you can't just drive down Maurice Bishop Highway again. You have to pay to pass day. Next thing you end up with toll bridges and all those kind of things. So what are the assets that are going to be disposed of? Don't just give us the generalities and say that disposal of assets to help finance the budget. Because it means, therefore, because if you're looking at things like CBI, citizenship by investment, from all indication, there seemed to be a specific lifespan in relation to citizenship by investment. While yes, countries throughout the region have been making significant amounts of revenue from CBI, there is a concerted effort by the United States, also by the United Kingdom, the European Parliament, and others to disrupt the citizenship by investment program, not just in the Caribbean, on a whole. Yeah? If these measures are executed, it means that by 2025, at the latest, you will have no CBI program. So the funds that you have in the consolidated fund right now from CBI, you won't be able to count on that. Maybe it's then they go start to talk about ganja, the cannabis industry, plant the ganja. They ain't talking about that one at all, boy. They leave out that campaign promise. They ain't going back in that one again. They ain't mentioning that.
The green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow.
Sorry about that for the caller who was trying to get through. I had mistakenly left the block on.
We never know yellow would treat us so. When you trick us with camp.
Yeah, 6,000 over 12 months per nurse. Meanwhile, you get 24,000. So why didn't they, instead of taking the raise, take that 24,000 per year and put that to hire in several more nurses? Yeah? And then also give the nurses what you tell them again, give them the permanent. Don't come and hand them contract and then try to bribe them with a 500. And furthermore, what about the other people working in the health sector? What about those people who are working as the caregivers and the other people who are working within the hospital? Not the nurses. The nursing assistants and the others. So we hear the nurses getting the 500. What about the others? They ain't even getting at $50? Not at 20? You don't even getting them at 10? Nothing for them? So you only care about the nurses. And no problem. If that's your thing, no problem. I care about them too. I love them just as you. I love them. All right? Maybe even more than you. I love the nurses. But in the same token that you're giving them, what about the other people? The backbone of the healthcare sector. Those orderlies who work in the health sector just as hard, and in some instances even harder than the particular category that you have placed all your emphasis on. So nothing for them. I mean, I hear a meeting take place and they were spoken to. So nothing for them. Just for the nurses. Nothing for the police, nothing for the firemen, nothing for the Coast Guard, nothing for the orderlies and so at the hospital, just the nurses. Yeah? Meanwhile, you have a lot of policemen that saying, boy, I'll take early retirement and get out of this thing. I spend enough time, I have my years under my belt, time to go. Yeah? And they're leaving with capacity because these are people that have been under training courses and so on that have capacity. That have now decided, boy, I done with that and the police force, time for me to go. I ain't make my 60, I ain't making that. Because remember how the law is. You just have to make the time, not the age. So once you make the time, you can take early retirement, you take your gratuity, and you go your way. So there are several police officers who are saying now, hey, I make my time to go. Some who even make the time just decide, no, I can't continue operating like this. I gotta go. Yeah? And then, let me just make a point side to budget now. I've learned over the weekend that people under the caregivers program, those are the ladies, I don't know if they're gentlemen that do it as well, I know it's mainly ladies, that are going around the island, they go to the homes, they do the cleaning and they take care of the elderly and disabled and so on around the island, that they have been informed that as of January, they have to work 8 to 4. Now, as it is now, usually they start work about 9 and they finish around 1 or so because what they do is a very tiring and a very specific something to go and clean a person's home, clean the person and so on, bathe them, make sure that they're okay and that sort of thing, make sure they get the medication, all of that, right? They're going to homes and they're doing this. So in some instances, they may work from 9 until 1, 2, that sort of thing. When they finish, they go about their business, whether they go in their land and do a little farming or they go into agro-processing or whatever they do, they go into their own thing. Right. They have been informed now. None of that again come January. Come January, you're working 8 to 4. Because here a certain man come and say he never said nothing about 8 to 4, but he was making reference, and that's the Honorable Dennis Cornwall, was making reference in St. Patrick about government workers when he was referring to the people who are working in the debushing program, saying that he doesn't believe that government is getting value for money and government workers work from 8 to 4. In other words, inferring that the people in the debushing program should no longer be working on their own timing, basically once they get a job done, but that whether they get a job done or not, they should be working from 8 to 4. And then he come and deny, he say that, Brother Cornwall, I have you on record saying it, and I have you on record saying you didn't say it, So if you want to take the opportunity to apologize for saying it, you have the opportunity now. But know that sooner rather than later, I will be playing it here. Yeah? Nice.
May not be liked by you, but I know you will like this
4407377.
poem is a problematic poem.
And sorry to the people on the chat if you feel I've been leaving you out tonight, because I have to be switching between you and some information I typed up here and that sort of thing. So Dr. Colette, and Marilyn, Wendy Ann, I'm sorry about that.
This is not politics. Please don't forget.
And that's a good question that Colette is asking. We didn't hear of the government deciding that they're going to subsidize the healthier choices, because you would realize sometimes you go to buy the fruits and vegetables, and so the healthier choices, and papa, your pocket can't stretch, Yeah, the unhealthy, what they consider to be the unhealthy are much cheaper. Yeah, sometimes it's easier to go in and just buy the snacks. Buy the snacks. I wouldn't say I doesn't buy it. You buy the snacks for the kids and that kind of thing. Because by the time you go and you look to pick up 2 Hana banana, and you pick up this and you pick up that, and so on, some golden apple and this and that, and you check the amount of money that you have to spend in doing that. So is the government going to subsidize now that you've put an increase on the sugary drinks and the sugar and so on, and you can't get sugar already when you're ready, but now the price is going up. And as I said earlier, I'd like to know which company gets the contract to bring the sugar. Yeah? I'd like to know that. Or who is involved in that company that's going to bring the sugar. Nice? Yeah, I want to know.
Everything there is a season, so man and man must reason. So I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple
and Ruth, I see you speaking about this situation in Las Vegas, and yeah, there's been quite a bit of shaking up when it takes place with the playing fields, because right now I hear one is actually heading to court in relation to the discontinuation of a contract that was taking of an individual grouping that was taking care of a playing field or playing fields, and their contract was discontinued. Meanwhile, out in the public, you're hearing that the people who are doing an excellent job, they have been retained. But then when you look at the Chang playing field that you're getting in certain areas, right? When I tell you Chang, if you spend time in Trinidad, where's a brushing cutlass? The kind of hook cutlass and a piece of stick you take and a swing to cut grass at the side of the road and thing? Yeah, right. Right now, some playing field looking like that. Chang. And we're going into the sporting season. So, because you know what happened? There were certain individuals that thought that the equipment that certain contractors were using was government equipment. They didn't realize the equipment belonged to the contractor. So when that contractor was removed from circulation and they went to the equipment, the people who were given the contract, they ain't even given a contract because they don't have a contract. They don't have a contract. Yeah? The people who were supposed to be given the contract, who doing the work right now and don't have no contract, they thought they were getting the equipment from the former contractor because they thought it was government owned, not realizing it's that contractor owned. So right now they're using cutlass and thing and weed eater and so to go and cut playing field chang, spot a mud here, piece of bush there, hill here, bump there, all kind of things.
Campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain. They began with the blame game, giving NNP more fame.
Well, Antonio, I hear you about the legalization of marijuana, but what I'm saying is that it's not if it's a campaign promise that you've made, and you still got people who are going to jail for it right now, and you've made that promise, then you have to do something. If people going to jail for it, yeah. At least the former Prime Minister said to the Royal Grenada Police Force, let's focus on other areas. Easy, guys. If you catch a fella smoking a spliff, ease him, you know. Focus on other areas, you understand? He make a recommendation. The police could take it, they could leave it. He make a recommendation. I didn't hear this one make any recommendation. No. So fellas still going to jail at the same token. Because you hear them speaking about, oh, we're going to put systems in place to expunge the records of individuals who had convictions over a period. That was already in place. It's been in place for quite a few years right now. It has expunged the records of several individuals right now who had minor things like they catch them with a spliff and they got a charge and they had a ticket, because some of these people, they're going to get jobs in different sectors and so on, and this reflects bad on them. Something that you may have done at the age of 13 and 14 and so you had a fight and the police pick you up, you got a charge, you were 16, 17, you wasn't thinking straight and something like that, minor offenses. And these people have had their records expunged. So it's nothing new to be speaking about that sort of thing. All right? So this is something that they promised in relation to the cannabis industry, because if you're going to fund the budget right now by disposing assets, and you were saying to all these people out here, all of us, you were saying that the cannabis industry can bring millions of dollars into the Grenadian economy, why are you not pursuing that industry and instead you're looking to dispose our assets? Why? Yeah? You don't even need a full 6 months to legalize it. And there are pre-existing legislation in places like Trinidad and I believe Antigua and so on that you could look at and model your own if you want to go a little more than them or you want to go a little less than them, and Jamaica and so on in relation to that industry.
You left him with Glenn alone.
No, I'm not a fan of it, but it's a campaign promise.
I foresee a pretensive unity that will mislead a lot just before the next ballot. But you guys will have to come real good, cause it's a long time Grenada ain't eat a food. You think politicians would trick us with campaign promises?
And expect it, tomorrow you're going to be hearing them. And here's what, I like to tell you what you're going to hear. Tomorrow you're going to be hearing them. They're going to take the time on every single radio program that you can tune into and they can call into. You're going to hear them with the same points. $500 for the nurses. We're doing this and we're doing that and we're fixing the stadium and all these things. Just remember, continuation of plans that were started by the New National Party. And they speak of a lack of... I heard Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph speaking that absolute nonsense about a lack of implementation by the former administration. Absolute nonsense. Because it's clear that when you look at the level of implementation prior to 2020, it was high. For 2020, projects were stalled. You had road project in St. Patrick, you had all different projects that had to be stalled because you had COVID-19, and therefore you had to rethink the way that you operated and interacting with other human beings. As such, projects were stalled, right? And they could not be completed. So you may have had $40 million there for a project and you spent 20. Because you only do half, or you spend 10 because you couldn't have done much. Because remember, early in 2020, March in 2020 is when we had the first COVID case here in Grenada, and then we had lockdowns not too long after that going into April and so it was not a situation as business as normal. It was not a case as business as normal. And this is not something that just affected Grenada. It affected even when you're checking on the amount of grant funding. You had grant funding that was earmarked for Grenada that Grenada could not get during those periods because other countries had to look at their spending because they were having serious economic problems due to COVID-19. And we have a call online. Good night.
Hey, Shalom.
Hi, good night, brother.
How are you?
I'm quite fine. You're live. Go right ahead.
So I saw the post that the government is spending $22.8 million on the Imani program, but isn't that a drop from $38 million?
Of course it's a drop. And if you're saying, and listen, it's a drop when you're saying also too, the businesses that presently pay half, that they have to pay all. So you're supposed to actually be, right now you have a set of people there that who are in the private sector that will no longer be in the private sector that you would have to take over totally.
Yeah, but in other words, you're telling me as a private business owner that I'm supposed to pick up where you are letting go. I'm not part of the government. I'm not getting government resources. This is my business. So how am I to then take out of my coffers to pay people in your program?
Well, that is what they're saying. And on top of that, you heard it from the minister in charge of youth, Honorable Ron Redhead. You heard him saying that basically that the private sector is dishonest. And then you heard similar statements being made by the Prime Minister today, berating the private sector for assisting these young people, availing them of training so that they could learn something, that they could then be employed either with that same private sector organization or outside of the private sector.
You know what I wish would happen? I wish we honest young people who have gained employment, permanent employment, through their input, their participation in the Imani program, would speak out and say it was the Imani that have them where they are today, because the impression that is being given has always been, by the NDC, has always been that the Imani doesn't get anywhere, and that the training that is given is cyclical and nobody gets out of the Imani program. And what is also glaring is the fact that Imani trainees are the ones who are shouldering the bulk of the responsibilities in a lot of the organizations and institutions, both public and private sector. A lot of them are doing work that they're not being paid to do.
Well, the thing is this, I am seriously concerned about what is going to be taking place with many of the people under that program and other programs, because you're hearing of attempts to reform now, even the caregivers program, they're being told 8 to 4. So in other words, whether you have 2 clients or 3 clients today and you complete that, you sit down by one of the clients until 4 o'clock or whatever it is, regardless if you have something to do or not. You sit there for the rest of the day. Yeah?
You see, the whole concept of small economies and the development of welfare and the development of a society has been lost on these guys who have academics.
Mm-hmm.
And let me try and explain this. When the NMP administration instituted or expanded on the Bushin program, it was to make sure that there was money flowing in the economy, especially around the August when parents have to get books for school children, and the Christmas when everybody looks for a little extra to make their season bright. It was not so much as the only thing to do, but it was a thing that would encourage business and commerce. And money is the lifeblood of every economy. So if there is money flowing through the economy, the business place might employ a next person temporarily. That is some more money that is circulating in the economy. These guys seem to not understand that. The question of training of Imani is something that you have to understand that the country overall has to juggle employment. You cannot employ everybody who leaves TAMCC or secondary school or New Law, what have you. Mm-hmm. You have to create an avenue within which they could go through and have hopes and not be frustrated or desperate when they cannot find employment. And that has worked very nicely for the Grenada society. The socioeconomic gains that the Imani program has brought to the country cannot be underestimated, and you cannot sweep aside the Imani program because you are going to create a scenario where you have desperate and delusional young people.
Of course.
And that is what they're doing because the academics tell them And they're not even up to date with the economic trends of the world. That welfare is important for the stability of every economy all over the world,
But my friend,
including the big countries.
we've seen a move by the World Bank, IMF, and so on. Usually, when you were under IMF program during the 80s, 90s or so, they cut all the welfare programs. The IMF itself has taken another position in relation to that and encouraged governments, even when you're under IMF program, to spend money on your social welfare programs because it affects
must.
things like crime and violence and general safety, and therefore the way that businesses operate and so on. So it is something that you generally can't say you're reducing money on, but that you have to continue spending on. But my friend, we are out of time. It is now after 10. So I just let you make a closing statement.
But bro, we talk more about this budget and hope that Grenadians are understanding that this is not about party, this is about country.
Of course.
And if your country is steered down the wrong way, we all in trouble, not just one or two. This is not about NMP, about NDC. It is about Grenada. And if NDC is going to steer us wrong, then not only NMP will suffer, NDC will suffer too.
Of course. My friend, thank you so very much for your call.
Yes, my brother. We'll
All
talk
right.
again.
All right. Thank you. Folks, that's all the time we have tonight for Talking Points. We'll be back with you tomorrow night from 8 p.m. and we'll be going a little more in depth into the budget statement and then the budget document. But remember, even though you hear me say my local thing here, the real test is on Thursday. So remember, make your plan wherever you are, you're going to be there. And if you can't be there, that you can at least listen and view online. Yes, Talking Points will be broadcasting it from 9 a.m. on Thursday. My name is Sheldon Scott. I'm out of here, and whatever you say and do it safe and secure. Want to be speaking to and with you and not about you. Love each and every one of you. I am out.
No rocket science to get you confused. So relax. I'm proud, I'm strong. I am a Grenadian. Yes, man. Grenada, Grenada, the land where I was born. I know you were suffering. Men have raped you and abused you and left you there crying. I devote my heart, my body and my soul. I stretch forth my helping hand to help you out. I haven't got diamond, silver, nor even gold, but blessings I give to its west, north and south. Oh, Grenada, Grenada, here I come. Sweet, sweet Grenada. I will never, ever, ever let you down. Oh no, I'll always be your support. Right here by your side. With my arms around you to wipe your weeping eyes. Oh, yeah. Dun-dun. It's quite a long time now since you have fallen back to the last rung of the ladder, and your neighbors stand up there and uttering no talk, but to help they just don't bother. Some of your friends have turned their backs on you. They don't want to see a friend with your name on it. Don't bother with them. One day you go rise up too. 'Cause in times to come is the bread they might have